Having completed the rear end of our SCT410 2.0 truck, it's time to move our attention across to the front end now, with Bag G, Front End Assembly. Bag G contains all the parts required to start off our front end assembly, so the arms and the sway bar, which just like the rear is 2.1mm here too. Anyways, we'll start with the inner hinge pin brace, which sits on the rear of the front gearbox, so just under the differential coupler, using two 14mm buttonhead screws, making sure that the hinge pin holes are facing inwards. Moving across to our first arm now, where we insert the 10mm droop screw on the inner centre, followed by inserting the hinge pin itself, and seating into position into the brace we just installed. Repeat with the second arm, so 10mm droop screw, and hinge pin, and push into the hinge pin brace. We can then hold in place with the outer brace, which simply pushes into place, although taking care to capture the hinge pins while doing so, before securing with a single 10mm buttonhead screw. So that's our front arms installed and moving nice and freely. We can concentrate on installation of the sway bar now. Just like the rear, start by inserting the two spacers into the front of the gearbox this time, before feeding the sway bar through, and then insert a sway bar screw mount into each end, down towards the spacers, with the collar end facing inwards. Followed by inserting set screws into both. Don't over tighten just yet, as we may need some movement before tightening everything down into place. Onto our sway bar linkages, insert a pivot ball into each end, and repeat with the second linkage arm too. Insert one end of the sway bar into the pivot ball with the collar, and use a set screw to secure down into position, complete with a little thread lock too, before placing the other end of the linkage into the suspension arm and securing into place by inserting a single 18mm caphead screw. Repeat the same process on the opposite side, securing the sway bar into position. All that's left is to place on a flat surface, ensuring the sway bar is as centered as possible, and tighten down the two screws toward the center of the sway bar, holding it securely in place. And that's the first part of the front end assembly complete. Just like the rear, the front arms are completely free, no binding and no other issues at all. Next we'll move to the front spindles and carriers, Bag H.